Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie. So I have a question. So you said that you're SEC regulated. So the retirement accounts then are securities. But when you're working with multifamily, it's not a sale of securities, right?
I don't even know that answer.
Well, you said that, and I'm like, because I'm almost positive. Actually, I am positive.
Okay.
In a multifamily syndication, the reason why SEC kind of sits on the side is because you're not trading securities. It's an investment, right?
Correct.
But on the retirement accounts, those are securities. So I think it's kind of just, I don't know, I need to look into it more as to how like a non-security kind of vehicle is being put into a security that is regulated. And that's just kind of.
Right. And you have to be careful with that because sometimes, so for us, our multifamily play is 3 to 5 years. 5 years is really typical. Okay. But let's just say 5 years from now, the economy is not doing great. We don't want to sell because we know in a year or two, it'll pick back up and we'll be able to sell for what we want. Well, if you don't get that money back in that account, guess who's getting taxed for it? So that money has to be put in that account, within the 60 months. So, that's kind of, if you're lending out of your IRA account on multifamily syndication and there's a 5-year, that's kind of a game you probably don't want to play unless you're willing to pay the taxes. If the tax benefit outweighs, if paying the taxes outweighs, what you'll get on the back end, that's fine. But if it doesn't, I would not put my retirement money in a long-term play like that.
Because a 5 can turn into a 7.
It could. Yeah. So 5 is our goal. It could be 3. Like right now, our economy is booming. We could cash out of a couple, if we so chose. But yeah, if you don't know what's going to happen. So it might be that we have to hang on to it a bit longer. And you just got,
if you're not gonna double up in the end, which I know that's a weird way to say it. That's how I think of it when we're getting into an investment. I'm like, is it a double up? Is it more than a double up? Is it less than a double up? So, if you put,
that's great.
Mary, I'm probably saying things that you might not, because it's like my own personal terminology. But so I call it a double up if we put in, say, 50,000, and at the end of when it turns, so 5 years, whatever, that 50 becomes 100.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't become 100 like overnight. It's the combination of the distributions that have occurred over the years, and then when they refi and you get your payout back, that total amount over all the years plus that end piece. If it's a double up, you go from 50 to 100. So it would make you 50,000 over the 5 years of distributions and then the refi.
Yeah. Good luck doing that in your CD or savings account or the stock market. So,
and my problem with the CDs is, so I had my first CD when I was like 5. My grandparents used to my grandfather would let me roll his money because he kept it in a drawer. And so I'd roll it up. And if it was like, say $60, they would round it up to 75 or 100 and we'd go put it in the savings and loan account.
Mm-hmm.
And my very first CD, I was getting 8.14%.
Oh my gosh.
I will never, ever forget that.
That is awesome.
I was little bitty. This was, let's see, when I was 5, this would have been early 80s. But I just remember numbers, and it's really funny that I remember that number because I was so young. But yeah, it was 8.14%.
Wow.
And
what
so
a difference.
I know, when I see CD now for like 1%, I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, we had one of our lenders say, hey, I have a CD coming due. I'm only making 4%. What will you pay me? I'm like, shoot, I'll double it. I'll pay 8%. And so he, lent us that money. So keep that in mind if you have a CD coming due.
Yeah, well, we actually don't have any CDs because of my experience of having, 8%.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But, and everything happens for a reason. So I'm glad that I had that experience to pull from even when I was super young, because now I can look back and be like, wow, nothing pays like that.
Right,
Except
for
for,
sure.
real estate or
Hmm.
a vehicle like that. So I've heard too, and I've actually got another guy that's going to come on hopefully in a couple of weeks, but I was informed that you can self-direct a 401, like a 401k. What do you know about that?
It's basically the same thing as an IRA. The difference between a 401k and an IRA is IRAs are more geared towards the average Joe that doesn't really, really have a business. They're not really savvy investors. Where a 401k, you have an EIN, you have a business, so it's probably a little bit more savvy. I prefer a 401k myself only because you can invest in more. It's not so stringent as an IRA, and the regulations are a lot friendlier. So if you mess up in your 401k, you're probably just going to get a letter, you owe us $5, shame on you, don't ever do it again.
Mm-hmm.
If you made that mistake out of an IRA, it could cost you, thousands. So the IRAs are not forgiving, and they're not as diversified as a 401k. But other than that, they're basically the same. They're a retirement plan account. It's just, do you own a business, or are you, just a private, I just want money to retire.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So like we've taken a loan on like the balance in my husband's account. I want to say it's a 401. I could be wrong. But can you do that in all retirement accounts, or is there a smarter way to build up your real estate empire using those accounts?
There's so much. It's like, what are your goals, and what do you want to do? So, as our accounts build up, we're hard money lending. If you can lend, at 10, 12, 18%, that's phenomenal money, especially short term. So, we wouldn't do long-term plays, but yeah, and you have to be careful though too, because, when you're investing and you're using your investment accounts, they do have to be an arm's length away. So you can't buy, you know, your child a house and, it be a investment. You can swap. If you had somebody that had 50K and you had 50K, well, I'll loan you my 50K if you loan me your 50K. So you do have to be careful what you do with your own money, and that you're always an arm's length away. So no immediate family. You can't invest in, say, a bed and breakfast and you live there, or a rental. Like, you can't say, well, I'm going to live in this house while I rehab it and then rent it. You can't do that. So, know the rules. Again, this is what's great about having a tax attorney on your team, is you have access to that. Hey, I think I want to live in this house myself and use my 401k. Let me run that by Tim first. And then Tim's going to be like, no, but you can do this or you can do that. And he'll give you alternatives. But, that's the beauty of having a tax attorney on your team and not having to pay $120 an hour to, ask that question.
Wow, that's really cool though. So, like, I've heard you talk about hard money now a few times. So how do you guarantee that you don't get burned? I mean,
You don't. You have to, again, you have to know. Really, we have invested in clubs, per se, that are supposed to, protect us. And, that's where, we've been more robbed in that club of protection than we ever have with doing, deals with, regular, not club people. So you don't, there is no guarantee. So you have to be careful with who you work with. Make sure that your JV agreements are solid. Have Tim look it over. Right? Make sure he's kisses, the agreement. Be prepared. You can ask for collateral. You can ask for points. Protect yourself. But, for us, we're going to make sure that the people that we lend to are people that we know, like, and trust.
mm-hmm.
So, and that's part of being educated.
Do y'all use then, it's 4 letters. The last 2 are LO, like F.
RMLO.
Oh, there you go. I was like, I'm thinking FMLO. No, that's not right.
LMNOP.
Yeah, because it's the, I can't think of what R and M are, but the loan originator. Do y'all use that or?
We don't. Should we? Maybe I need to look into that. I don't know. Maybe I should. See,
Well, the only
you
thing
have to be educated.
so Kristen Gerst talked about it one time.
Oh, yeah.
She was on my March, she was a part of my March summit, and then she's done an episode for me here too. And she talked about that. Like it just, I guess they do all the paperwork part of it and just make sure that, CYA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But still, it's, the whole non-payment thing freaks me out.
Sure.
Because basically you're the bank, and if someone doesn't pay, what do you do? Well, you have to enforce it. Well,
good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of our friends, said, just because you win a lawsuit doesn't mean you get the money, right? So, you have to collect that money yourself. So good luck. But it's the same as if you had rentals. There's no guarantee your renters are going to pay.
Yeah, my grandparents
There's never guarantees in any of it. There's not guarantees in any of it, which is why we run credit checks, which is why we try to do, we try to have a loving heart and we try to have a trusting heart. But if you have 5 evictions, and you have a 300 credit score, we can't take that chance, right? Yeah. So, it's just, you just have to educate yourself, and it's all a gamble. Life is a gamble, are you willing to play the game? You have to know that there could be losses, and you just have to be smart and, recover from your loss. Don't quit. Just, suck it up and, keep going. In 2008, like there's several people we know lost multi-millions from being over leveraged. And I think, how do you ever even want to do real estate after that? Like, I would just, I'd be a janitor at the high school before I went back into real estate. But they did, and they rebuilt, and now they're multimillionaires again, but they did it smarter, right? So they learned some lessons. And I think that's what's important, is none of it's guaranteed. You learn your lessons, you take your licks, and you rebuild.
Wow. Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they came back to real estate, because if it did them for it once, if it did it for them once, it would do it again. So that part really doesn't surprise me. And maybe that's the kind of view I should take on other types of investments. But I grew up with a family that was in real estate. My husband grew up with a family in real estate. So real estate was just kind of a natural progression for us. But the idea of using a retirement account, so we've really gotten into this idea of making the same dollar work for you more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And my first introduction to it was that infinite banking concept. And that's another way to make each dollar work for you more than once. And it's super cool too. And then I started learning about this, and I was like, this is another way to make your dollar work for you more than once. Because, mm-hmm. And even the equity line of credit that we're looking at from our investment properties, it's another way to make that dollar work more than once. Even though there's a little bit of a cost to it, it's mind-boggling to me that there's ways to do that. Because, who was it that said, the only way to get wealthy is to make money in your sleep?
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, they all have that concept, Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, they all, and that's the point, like, you work hard for your money, your money should be working hard for you. And I think we do that. We have that concept backwards. Oh, I got to make the money. No, my money works for me. I'm the boss of my money, and my money's going to do what I tell it to do. And it's going to provide me infinite, wealth and legacy. And so, and then I get to teach that to my children. My son runs my single family business. My son closes on $1 million portfolios. I got to teach that to him. I got to, and his kids will do the same, hopefully, and so it's just, what are you doing for the future? And it's not just about you. Yeah, I want to be wealthy and I want nice things, but what does it do for my kids and my grandkids and hopefully my great grandkids?
Yeah, we, I actually, and the other day I was typing out an email to someone. I said, You want to make your dollars work for you, not you working for your dollars.
Right, right. We just have
And
that backwards. But
I mean,
again,
that's how we're taught basically, right?
right, we're not taught this stuff in school, right? We're taught that you make good grades, you go to university, you get some mundane degree, and you work forever until you get a pension. And if you were super smart, you get to retire at 65. A lot of people don't get to retire at 65 because they started late. And this is, again, start a self-directed account. If you're in your 40s and your 50s and you're not going to have the money to retire in 15 years, stick that money in a self-directed account, find somebody that will pay you 20% interest, okay? That money is going to double in 5 years, right? And then if you turn around and recycle that money, guess what? It's going to double again in the next 5 years. So in the 15 years, you're going to have, a lot of money. And then let's just say you live on just the interest and you recycle the main portion of that money. Again, you are building, and you don't have to worry about retirement. So even if you start late, there's just no reason to panic if you're smart about what you do. But you can't be scared. And you have to act. You have to do it. And I think fear and ignorance holds a lot of people back.
Okay. So I already exhibited the fact that my math skills can be a little off sometimes.
Yeah, mine too.
But if you start out with 10 in year 1, then it'd be 20 in year 2, 40 in year 3, 80 in year 4, and 160,000 in year 5. If you put in 10,000, is that right?
Okay, so no. So if you put in 10,000 at 20% interest, in 5 years, it's going to be 20,000. So it doubles in the 5 years at 20%.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be super impressive, right?
I was
okay.
Like,
so now, and I'm not a mathy person either. Okay. So don't be putting nasty comments in there about my math, but I do know that because we do that all the time. So 10,000 in 5 years just became 20,000. So that 20,000 rolled over in the next 5 years is now 40,000. Rolled back over another 5 years is 80,000. So in 15 years, when you thought you weren't going to be able to retire and you weren't going to have any money, you can now retire on 80 grand, which I know doesn't last forever, but you keep recycling the money. Like, just live on the interest. Like, if you're a single guy, you can absolutely live on 30 grand a year, easy, and have probably a pretty nice lifestyle. Recycle the rest. Find out what you have to have a lifestyle, and then recycle the rest and let that build.
And 10,000 was just an easy number. It could be
oh my gosh, imagine if you did 50 or 100, right? So yeah, so I am always at the easy number too. Like, okay, I know tens. But if you were, pick a number. It doesn't matter. And again, be diversified. So if you have 100 grand in your account, don't put the whole 100 grand in. Put 20, 25 in and play with that and watch that it doesn't grow and watch that doesn't get excited. We send out a monthly spreadsheet so every month how your money is growing, and our investors get excited about that. They see it and they're like, okay, and after 6 months to a year, that trust has been built, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put in a little bit more. And so, it's really a fun game to play, and it's a very addicting game to play. So,
well, and okay, I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, it's just dawning on me, you can continue to deposit into it.
Yeah.
So it's growing with the interest rate, and it's growing because of deposits.
Right. So this is multifamily. Okay. So this is assuming that you're just investing in Vorsa Investments and Happy Homes Now. Okay, so Happy Homes Now is my single family, Vorsa Investments is my multifamily. If I have an apartment complex, it's already been syndicated and paid for, you can't just jump into that, right? But you can on the single family side, right? So I have a portfolio now, we need rehab money. So if somebody lent me $50,000 in rehab, that's great for the first house or two, maybe 3, depending on what it needs. And then you get excited and you're like, you know what, here's another 50 grand. Awesome. So now the other 2 houses just kind of got paid. Well, now we're closing on another portfolio, right? So we can kind of roll what's left over to that. And so then you're like, oh, that was awesome. Here, I have another 10 grand, or my grandma wants to jump in. Then you can jump in for sure. And we're very transparent on where your money is. We don't have minimums. If, my son, I have a 17-year-old son, if his friends want to learn and they only have $100 that grandma gave them for Christmas, guess what? We're going to grow that $100 for them, and they're going to see their money grow, and it's hopefully going to educate them and create some excitement. So, they continue, but $100, isn't going to buy you first lien on a house, right? But it'll pay for some marketing. It might buy us some pens that we can pass out for marketing, but we take a picture of that and we send that to them. And this is where your money went. And then when that money's returned, be like, okay, we recycled your money and we, bought flyers. So our people always know where their money is. And, we love to share that with them. We love to say, you know what, your money bought a stove for one of these rehabs. And,
That's awesome. So I was sitting here like calculating in my head. So one of the things one of my goals is, as an educator, I want to help fellow teachers build some wiggle room so that you remove that financial component. You remove the full reliance on the paycheck for the bills. And it makes you a different teacher. It makes you see things differently. And I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, this would be like the perfect way for a teacher to get involved, because they don't have a lot of extra money.
Well, absolutely. And they don't have the time to be landlords, and, they get to teach. Like, how fun would that be as a teacher? I think, and I'm assuming, but if it were me, how exciting would that be to teach your kids, to show your kids, your monthly statement and be like, look what I did. All I had was $1,000. I invested it. Look how it grew, and again, they don't teach us that stuff in school. Right. And that right there is just, we just do our kids horrible injustice, not teaching them just the absolute basics. Like, you don't have to know, tax codes and, just the very basics of investing. It's sad.
Yeah, wow. Cause one of the things that I'm wanting to get started is, like a subscription program for working class, first responders, teachers, because those are first responders and teachers are kind of near and dear to my heart, because I was a teacher. And then because I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for first responders. I was in a really bad car wreck when I was 16, had to be taken from the car with the jaws of life. I was in a coma for a couple of weeks, really bad. And so I would not be here if it were not for first responders. And so to be able to offer some kind of a subscription program, very affordably priced, to get them a little bit of this education, and to show them that, like, have you on 1 month and show them that you've got alternatives. You don't have to just pay into your pension. You're going to have to pay into your pension because you don't have a choice about that, but you can maybe sock away an extra, 10, 20, 30, let's get up to 100, 200, 500. And you can start making money that way too, to really add.
That's part of that diversification. Have your money a little bit of everywhere. Have a little bit in the stock market if you're savvy in that. Have a little bit in multifamily, have a little bit in single family, have a little bit in something that you enjoy. So, antiques or art, or, have it a little bit of everywhere. So if one plummets, the others can, carry it through.